What if I was to tell you that you could design a logo, build a brand guidelines completely free, then take that same brand and build a fully functional website and click publish, all from within one platform? Towards the end of last year, Framer released a brand new feature called Design Pages. Design Pages allow you to use all the same tools you're already familiar with in Framer to craft graphics, to create SVGs, and to build out designs that you can then use for your website or for your brand. And you can't beat the fact that it is completely free to use. You can go all the way through to a published website here without spending a penny. So originally Framer started out as a website prototyping tool, so we weren't initially talking about fully functional and published websites. We were talking about that step just after the initial concept and design phase, where we see how the flow of the site would really work in practice. Then they did something pretty huge, and they added a publish button that would allow you to take that prototype and turn it into a fully functional website. Since then, Framer have published countless updates and arguably now have gone from a prototyping tool to one of the most powerful web builders in the world. But for a long time, we've still relied on tools like Figma to create those initial designs. And while it might seem obvious that the introduction in Framer of design pages has unlocked the ability to design the website and develop in one platform, it also broadens the abilities of the Framer platform to also create and craft brands, graphics, and just do a ton more with your websites. Today, I'm going to be taking you on a very quick tour of all of these new features inside of Framer. We're going to start by using design pages to recreate my own logo, just to show you how to get comfortable with the SVG and graphic design tools. We'll then take that logo and build out a very basic set of brand guidelines. Using the assets panel, we're going to store our typography and our colors so that for the final stage of this video, we can actually take that exact same brand and build a very, very simple landing page using the same assets that we've put together in the design pages. So we're going to cover the entire workflow from getting a brand designed all the way through to publishing a very simple landing page, all in one platform. And remember, best thing about this, it's completely free to use. So if you want to follow along and get to know the tools alongside me, then go ahead, create a Framer account. You can use the link in the description below and come and join me inside the platform. Let's get started. So once you're in and you've got the dashboard in front of you, to get started, we're going to click New Project. So when your project loads up, you're going to get this dialog box open asking if you want to start with a blank project or use one of Framer's existing templates. Now, I have never in all of my years of web design seen anything like Framer's marketplace for templates. They reward their creators extremely well. So any creator that's ever published a template to the Framer template store actually gets to keep 100% of any of the royalties made. So if any of these ever suit you, you can support a creator and get started nice and quickly with Framer's templates. As I say, they're incredibly high quality. So there's absolutely nothing wrong if that's where you want to get started, but for us and for this project, we're going to go ahead and click Blank Project. So we're going to be starting with designing a logo inside of Framer. So we're actually going to want to create a new design page. So let's click on this plus icon to the right-hand side of this section here saying design and add our first design pages. I'm going to call this logo design, as this is where we're going to be putting together our basic logo. So for any of you with any prior graphic design experience, you should find what I'm about to show you very familiar. If you've used Figma or Adobe software to craft custom vector graphics before, then you'll already understand that you normally get a range of predefined shapes or the ability to use the path or pen tool to create your own. So within Framer, let's navigate to the vector section of the toolbar, and you'll see we've got 4 options here for predefined shapes and a path tool to create our own. And you'll see on the right hand side where we've got the letter P, and up here with the rectangle, the R and O for oval. These are your keyboard shortcuts, and I'd really recommend getting your head around these as soon as possible to just speed up your design process massively. So we're going to start by using the path tool. So you can either hit P on your keyboard or select the path tool from the vector menu in the toolbar. We just click to create points on the canvas and start building out our custom shapes. Now, if you just wanted to create, say, a decorative line or something that's like outline based, you don't need to close the circuit. However, if you do close the circuit, you can then add a fill and custom color to your shape. You can add a gradient, anything you want. Once you've got your custom shape in place, we can click and drag any of the points on our shape or create new ones by clicking between 2 existing points and begin to customize our graphic. We can double click on a point and we can really start to create something quite custom. So that's how you create a custom vector, but you can also obviously drag in pre-created vector graphics such as the oval and the rectangle. So hopefully you can now see how easy it is to create custom shapes and vector graphics inside of Framer's design pages. We're going to delete that initial vector we created now and just focus on the oval, because I want to sort of show you a few more tools at our disposal. So holding down Alt or Option, let's click and drag to create a few copies of this oval. We're going to select all 4 and we're going to focus on these 2 rows up here in the design panel. So this first row should feel nice and familiar. These are our alignment and distribution tools. They allow us to align everything vertically and distribute them evenly. These are really nice tools for keeping your work tidy, but also aligning things how you need to for your specific designs. The next row relates more to how SVGs interact with one another. So we're going to overlap these two circles, and just checking over on the left-hand side, if we select both of them in the layers panel, you can see we have two very separate ovals. How do we go about turning these into one united SVG graphic? This is where this second row comes into play. If we select that first option, Unite, if you hover over it again, you get the keyboard shortcuts. They now turn into one united graphic, and we can double click within this to still edit the individual elements that are creating that united SVG, but they're now being treated as one united graphic. We can undo this at any point with that selected by just selecting Unite again, and it's going to go back to its default settings. The next option on that row is Subtract, and what this allows us to do is take whichever element is sat on top and cut that shape out of whichever element is sat behind. So if we select this, the small circle is now going to be subtracted away from the large circle. You can play around with all of these to figure out what works for you and your graphic design. For example, the intersect tool will leave only the overlapped space, and the opposite is true of the exclude tool. So do feel free to have a play around with how you can interact different vector graphics and SVGs to create your own custom shape. Let's get into the logo build. Giving away all my secrets, these are exactly the same concepts that I used to design my own logo. So we effectively have an S that's made out of a circle with a couple of smaller circles and a couple of rectangles, using the Subtract tool primarily to cut those out of the main shape. So let's recreate this in Framer. I'm not going to worry about 100% accuracy. The point here is to show you how easy it is to use the vector tools. So we're going to hit O on the keyboard or go up again to the vector menu and select oval. We're then going to click and drag to create a nice big oval in the center of our canvas. We're then going to create two smaller ovals in the center of this circle, and we're just going to align them in the middle. I'm again going to click Alt and drag to create a second copy, and I'm going to select both of these smaller circles and just drag them until they're aligned in the middle. And you can see these guides appear just to help us see that they're in the right place. Okay, so if we select all three of these circles, and because the two smaller circles are sat on top of the bigger circle, when I hit Subtract, they're going to be cut out of that main shape. There's only two more shapes missing from my logo, and that's the two smaller rectangles at the top and bottom. I'm going to hit R on the keyboard to create a rectangle, and we're going to place a rectangle in line with that small circle at the top. There's a little bit of rotation on my logo, so I'm going to rotate that slightly and just drag it down just to ensure that the rectangle is in line with the right hand side of that circle. I'm going to Alt and drag to copy this across to the lower circle, and then I'm going to select everything and once more hit Subtract. Now this is not accurate. The original logo I spent more time on, so alignment might not be perfect, but you can see here how we've taken these exact same concepts, this subtraction and the playing around with the interactions between different vector graphics to create a logo. So before you join me on the next section where we're going to be fleshing this out into more of a brand guidelines, have a little play around yourself with vector graphics, explore how you can use the intersect, unite and subtract tools to come up with your own custom graphics. So let's start fleshing this out into more of a brand. You'll see now on the design pages section, I've added a brand new design page called Brand Guide, and I've actually gone ahead and pulled in an SVG version of my logo and just a visual reference to my existing color palette just to speed us up along the way. So exactly the same as with a tool, say like Figma or XD, you're going to want to create a frame to contain your design. So I'm actually going to just make a really simple brand guidelines document, perhaps with a page for the logo, a page for colors, and a very simple page for typography. So to start, let's click frame and let's drag in a frame. I'm going to set this to 1920 pixels wide and 1080 pixels tall, so roughly the size of a screen. And I'm going to double click the word frame to rename this to cover. So with my cover frame selected, what I'm going to do is navigate down to the style section within the design panel. I'm going to click fill and I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to select and sample that background color. And you'll see within the fill settings, there's a button right at the bottom that says new style. I'm going to click this to create a new color style and I'm going to call this black and create. Now, if we have a little look on the left-hand side, if we navigate to the assets panel underneath styles and within the color folder, you can see we've now got this color black as a pre-saved color style. If I just drag in an oval by clicking O, you can now see as we navigate to the styles panel and go to fill that we've got this available as a swatch to apply to any element on our canvas. So this is why it can be really powerful to build your brand inside of Framer. You can then create reusable assets and styles that we can then really quickly apply to that website build further down the line. So I'm going to select the logo, and with Alt and drag, I'm going to bring that into the center of the cover. Now I'm also going to bring in some title text just for this first page. So I'm going to click T, or you can come up to the top and select text from the toolbar. I'm going to click within that frame, and I'm going to say brand guidelines, if I can spell, version 1. And I'm going to position this in the bottom left corner, and we can make sure we've got things in the right position by setting an exact distance from the bottom and the left up here in the position section. So we then get some settings down here for our text, and exactly the same as we did with the color, we can save styles for our text too. So with our text selected, we can navigate again back to the design panel into the section that relates specifically to text, and we can click select within the style section and create a new style. So I'm going to call this a paragraph, and I'm going to name this small subtitle. And again, this now means that we can reuse this exact same style of text anywhere we need to. So for the sake of keeping things nice and simple, I'm going to really quickly build out 2 pages now, one with all of our color styles and one with our typography styles. So following those exact same principles, you can see I've built out a very simple brand guidelines document inside of the Framer platform. Now, this is far from what I would send to a client. I'd normally spend a lot more time on a brand guidelines document. I'd go into a lot more detail, but for the sake of illustrating to you what's possible, you can see here that we can define color styles and typography styles from within the platform that we can then really quickly apply to our website when it comes to it. So if you have a look again towards the style panel, you can see that all 3 of these color styles and all 4 of these copy styles are here to apply later on. So we've got headings 1 and 2, a small subtitle and body ready to go for our website, as well as our 3 colors. So one step remains, and that's how we take this brand that we've created and start building a website that's publishable within the same platform. So let's come back to our pages section and let's go to the homepage. So the purpose of today's tutorial is not to show you how to build a full-scale website. It's not an in-depth design tutorial specific to websites, but instead to show you how Design Pages by Framer unlocks a whole new set of tools for us to use in building a website out. So I'm not going to show you how I would build a full website from scratch here. I just want to show you how you can put together a very simple landing page, several kind of methods to get to that position, and then how we can take the content that we put together in those design pages into that site build. So when you open up a project from scratch in Framer, you're always going to start off by default with your desktop breakpoint. I often get asked by clients how many breakpoints do I actually need for a fully responsive and sort of successful website? And the answer is really simple. If you click on this plus icon next to the word breakpoint, just in this little top bar above the desktop, and add the tablet and phone breakpoints, that is all you'll ever need. There are some very rare circumstances where a particular site might need bigger or potentially smaller breakpoints, but genuinely, for the vast majority of web builds, these 3 breakpoints are all you need to worry about. The second important thing that you need to know about breakpoints is to always design in the desktop breakpoint first. So any changes that we make to desktop will be reflected by default on tablet and phone. Now, if we make any overrides in tablet or phone, they won't be reflected on either of the other 2 or on the desktop. So if we say add a circle, let's just click O on the keyboard and add a circle to our canvas, you can see as I start moving it around the desktop that it's also reflected on the tablet and phone breakpoints. However, if I click this here on the tablet and start moving it around, now that's exactly the same on the phone as it is on the desktop, but the tablet has completely changed, whilst the other 2 have remained exactly the same. If I now go back to the desktop and start making changes again, you'll see the tablet remains exactly the same. So this is what we would call a breakpoint specific override. Okay, so we want to make our design on the desktop. We then want to sort of tweak small changes that are necessary to make it work well and responsively on the tablet and on the phone. We need to understand that once we've made those changes, we need to be aware of those changes when we then make changes on the desktop breakpoint, as they may not always be reflected. For example, if we were to say add a text block to our desktop breakpoint and get all of our copy in, then go to tablet and say, for whatever reason, this doesn't fit in its space nicely, so we then edit and tweak the text. If we then go back to our desktop breakpoint at a later date and edit that copy, we need to make sure that we have a little look at all 3 breakpoints just to see if we've made any changes or overrides on that specific breakpoint that we need to kind of make sure we reflect in those same copy changes. So let's get into the sort of 3 or 4 main ways to add content to your website. So I'm going to delete this oval. And the first I'm going to talk you through is effectively a custom build. So if you come up to the toolbar, you will see we have a tab here called Layout, and this allows us to add frames, rows, columns, grids, and masonry grids. as well as images and video. So this is kind of, if you're going to go for a from scratch build, either via the keyboard shortcuts or through the toolbar, these are going to be the kind of main tools that you'll be using. So we've got predefined grids, we've got predefined layouts with auto layout kind of built in from the get-go. So if we were to add rows and then start adding content to a kind of set of rows, we can expect it to start laying out automatically. Now, as I said, today's tutorial is not going to be a kind of full-scale website build in Framer from scratch. It's going to be more to sort of show you how to bring that branding into an existing website. So we're not going to use all of these today, but if you did want to build a fully from scratch website, then these are the tools you're going to want to use. You can pre-drag in grids, customize the gaps and spacing, bring in your own images and videos and text content, and start to build something out exactly as you wish to. So let's move on to the second way to bring content onto a website. If we click on the Insert tab, you can then scroll down to Sections, Navigation, and Menus. Now, these are three kind of sets of pre-built sections that you can drag and drop onto the canvas that are made by Framer. You'll also see at the top that we get options for light and dark mode. So depending on the sort of design and feel you're going for, these work really, really well. And you can just simply click and drag them onto the canvas and start building out a sort of functional website that you can then drag and drop your content into. And if we click preview, you'll see that it's out of the box, fully responsive, and nice and easy to work with. And if you're a beginner, there's genuinely nothing wrong with this approach. If you are potentially intimidated by sort of going through all the different layout options and you're not entirely familiar with kind of web design or development, this is a fantastic way to start, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this. So I'm going to undo and remove all of those sections and show you the kind of final way that I like to build in Framer. And that's using some of the extensive and frankly awesome plugins that are available on the plugin marketplace for Framer. And I'm going to show you several options that exist for dragging and dropping in content. So I'm just going to head now to the Framer plugin marketplace. If we click on plugins, and we can then click browse all, browse plugins, and feel free to have a proper explore of the plugin marketplace. There are some really cool tools to use. So you've got things that are built into Framer natively, like Workshop, but then as you scroll through, you can bring in custom stock images, you can bring in icons. There's so many functionalities and features that plugins build upon from Framer that can really elevate your site. So do have a flick through. But why we're interested in this is not only are there kind of snap-ons that allow you to use, say, icons or improve your form functionality, there's also drag and drop site builders that allow you to bring in pre-built templatized sections to really speed up your workflow. Now, I say this time and time again, templates are not something to kind of frown at or look away from. They are pre-solved problems, okay? If you need to create a layout for a specific kind of design idea you've got, chances are that somewhere there will be a section that's already been designed, that's already responsive straight out the box, and already has all of those issues and the kind of problems that you run into along the design phase worked out for you. So absolutely, if you want a quicker build, if you've got a client project on that you need to get through by a certain deadline, try and use some plugins where you can, or some pre-built templates. So just scrolling through the plugin library, you can see we've got a whole range of different things that we can bring into our design. For example, there's more specific use cases like improvements to testimonials. We've got specific timeline designs, but then we also have some plugins that are going to help us build predefined full sections for our website. So heading back into Framer, I'm going to show you one that I like to use quite a lot, and that is Kompa. Now, Kompa is built by a wonderful team of people. It's a comprehensive library of pre-built sections. They're not far off of the kind of wireframer level where we're talking about something very, very stripped back, very unbranded, clean and minimal, that just allows you to bring your own brand in. So the way to use Kompa, or the way I like to use Kompa, is to head to blocks, and you'll see here we've got a long list of predefined sections and styles. So for example, we can go for hero, and we can drag and drop in a hero section that we like the look of. So you can see they are very stripped back, very minimal. There really isn't much here in terms of like an elaborate or creative design. It's deliberately really stripped back, which is why I really like it, because if I've got a brand that I want to bring into a template, sometimes when you buy a template or you use a free template, they've kind of already gone down the path of kind of creatively bringing that template to life in a way that might fit one brand but not necessarily another. So this does a really good job of allowing you to start from a relatively blank canvas. So I'm going to drag in a few sections now and just build out a very, very simple landing page that will eventually head through to publishing once we've kind of brought in our styles and typography and color settings from our brand guides. So let's add in a sort of scrolling logo section, and let's add testimonials. We'll just drag and drop in a handful of reviews. And let's also bring in a content section. And I'm just going to drag this sort of in between sections. You can see how easy it is to use this plugin. And if I just scroll across to the right, you'll see that right away, this is automatically responsive. So on the desktop breakpoint, we have this kind of left and right column style with the hero section. But then as I come across to the mobile, you can see it's more kind of stacked and vertical. So again, this is what I was saying before. We have pre-solved problems that are going to massively speed up our workflow. Again, I'm not going to get too carried away with the build. Let's see how we can take what we've got here and bring in the brand that we've worked on before. So just clicking back over to our brand guide, you can see that on the whole, this is definitely a dark mode or dark themed website. So we have already used the assets panel to pre-save our colors. So let's do what we need to do to effectively invert what we've got so far. So at the moment, this is a light themed website. We've got light backgrounds with dark text. Let's flip that around. Now, a way I like to do this is to select the desktop breakpoint on the whole and then come down onto the right-hand side to the selection colors. We're going to expand the range of colors, and now what you can see is all the colors that are being used on our canvas. So what we want to do is invert this from light mode to dark mode. So with this desktop selected and with all of the selected colors available to us on the right-hand side, we can see that we have a white color. So we can tell straight away that this white color is the one that's being applied to the background. So let's select this and let's change it to black. Now initially it's going to be a bit weird because all of our text is going to have disappeared and we now can't see what we're working with as well. So we're then going to go for our darkest color, which is most likely our headline text. So if you can see here, very, very, very subtly against the background, the contrast is awful now. The headlines are a kind of black or very, very dark color. So you can see here, this 0 is our darkest shade. So we can kind of assume that's going to be the one we work with. And we can switch that to white. And now our headings all look quite good. Next, we've got this kind of mid-gray. And something I like to do, if this might not be the most professional way to do it, but find what workflow works for you. That's what's most important. I like to flash a bright red to sort of help me see what I'm working with. And we can see here that we're working with the kind of follow-up paragraphs underneath headlines or down there in the bottom section in the testimonial blocks themselves. So a mid-gray works quite well. I'm going to move it towards the lighter side, but on the whole, I'm happy with how that looks. Next, we've got our two kind of primary colors. Now, I know Kompa well enough by this point to know that one of those is more than likely our default or our primary color, and the other one is our hover state color, and that relates specifically to buttons. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So if we scroll in here to our primary button and just select that, you can see here we've got color and we've got hover color. So if I click preview by either clicking the play icon above the breakpoint or the play icon in the toolbar at the top, or you can hit Control and P, you can see that when I hover over the button, it changes color. So there's actually two colors in use on the button. You've got your kind of default state and your hover state. And we can customize these. So our hover color, we could make a really rotten green. If this ends up working, do not steal this. And then what we can do is hover over and you can see that we have complete control over all those shades. So I know Kompa well enough to know that these two primary colors in our color selections relate not only to the primary color, but also to the hover state. Now, I also know that the hover state was darker. So this second one here, the slightly darker shade, is the one that relates to our hover state. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to make them both the same color today just to sort of speed through. So we're going to select both of these one at a time and set them to our brand's primary color that we defined earlier when we all worked on the design pages. Okay, so our three main brand colors are in place. And continuing through, we've got this next color here. Again, I'm going to go for a red and just flash that red so we can see what we're working with. So this seems to relate solely to the background of the secondary buttons. So what I'm actually going to do for this is select our primary color and go for something within the same hue that's just slightly darker to work as our secondary button. Okay, lovely. Next, we're going to keep going down through all of these until we've got them all customized. Again, make it bright red. And sometimes you're going to run into a situation where you've got absolutely no idea where that color is being used. It could be within a hover state. So keeping that bright red, I'm going to go through and hover over, and you can see, yeah, that's the secondary color's hover state. Okay, so it's not always obvious and it's not always easy, but this still massively speeds up your workflow. So again, I'll just set this to primary and bring that down. Okay, and we could make sure they both match each other exactly by copying and pasting the hex code of those two colors across. And I'm just going to quickly go through and do this for all of the remaining colors. So here we've got our logos, set those to white. Here we've got the background for our testimonials. I'm actually going to set these to a very, very transparent white. And that is all of our color styles applied. So you can see now how we've taken a very simple wireframe and brought in the same color styles that we applied earlier when we built together our brand guidelines. So the next step is to customize the typography. So again, thankfully, because of what we did with our design pages, all of these styles are predefined. So I'm going to select our main H1 or our kind of primary heading. And I'm going to scroll down to our text settings, and within styles, I'm going to select heading 1. That's now automatically going to apply our H1 style that we predefined earlier. As you can see, design pages not only allow you to create custom SVGs and vectors, but if you use them correctly to build out a design system or brand guidelines beforehand, you can massively speed up your workflow for your own private projects or for client projects. So you can see how much this has sped us up. I'm going to continue to do this now. So I can see that the kind of copy we're dealing with here for all of these follow-up paragraphs follows the exact same text style. So I'm going to select all of our sort of secondary copy and make this our default body or paragraph style. And if it changes the colors to something you're not happy with, you can go to edit and adjust the color settings from within that kind of text style menu. Lovely. So you can see here already with some very, very simple color and text tweaks, how we've taken a stripped back landing page wireframe effectively and brought in some branding. There's a couple more things I'm going to do just to sort of show you how easy it is to elevate a design with those kind of branding elements. If we just jump back to our brand guide, you can see that the only real thing that sort of stands out as a specific brand element or a kind of unique twist is this gradient. So it's something I want to bring into our hero section. There's two ways of doing this. You could select your hero section and kind of do this by hand by selecting the colors, going to your linear gradient and selecting both handles, setting one to primary and setting the other to black. And you can then go through and adjust the color settings. So for example, here with this paragraph, which is now not standing out too well, just because within our paragraph settings we've set the color here doesn't mean we can't override them just on this specific case. So what you can do, you can see here we've got this color field. I'm going to set that manually to white, and I might just reduce the opacity slightly just to continue that kind of hierarchy with the headline being nice and punchy and then just a little bit softer on that follow-up text. And again, there's not the best contrast with these buttons, so when it comes to an actual design that you're going to publish, spend more time ensuring you've got good contrast with your colors. So lastly, what is a website without a logo? I'm not going to show you how to build a full navigation bar, again, because I think that's more in depth, and we'll follow up with that in a future tutorial within Framer. But if we just pop back to our brand guides, select our logo, Control and C or Command and C, or you can right click and copy, and then we'll come back to the home page. And I'm just going to paste this right at the top of our hero section. I'm going to resize the logo just because that's looking a little bit big. And you can see here how it's jumped to the middle. We can select the parent frame that wraps our logo and just come down to the alignment and set that to the left. Lovely. And because this is an SVG, if we're not happy with, again, color contrast, we have complete control over every part of the design. Because this is from scratch, because this isn't a PNG or a JPEG, we can completely customize. We can still double click and expose all of the curves. So if we keep flicking through and we scroll in, you can see I can customize the logo as much as I need to. So there's so many reasons to choose SVG. Another big benefit is that it's infinitely scalable. So no matter how your website's viewed, you can guarantee that your logo is going to look nice and sharp and in good contrast. Lovely. So fingers crossed, you kind of learned a thing or two in this tutorial. There's one more thing to show you, and that's how to take a kind of concept or a landing page and actually publish that to something that you can access on the web. It's going to be nice and easy. What we're going to do is we're going to take our cursor to the top right hand of the screen with this nice publish button. We're going to click it and we are done. This is now live. We can click on this link at the top and view it within our browser. That is how easy it is to publish a landing page within Framer. Honestly, when this feature first came out, and I know publish seems like a really obvious feature, but when this started off as just a prototyping tool, the addition of this publish button took it from a kind of design tool to a fully functional drag and drop, and let's be honest, a really lightweight and easy to use website builder that, frankly changed the game for all of us. So here you can see on my browser, it is working perfectly. If I resize the window, you can see it's fully responsive. It adapts to the screen width and changes the layout automatically. And that's because we use those pre-solved problems given to us by Kompa. So again, Kompa's just one of many plugins. Feel free to explore the plugin library and see what works best for you. But I hope that you can see how easy it is to use the SVG tools, first and foremost, build out brand guidelines, and then set out your assets, both color assets and typography assets, and then bring those across to fully customize a landing page. This is just to sort of show you the basics. So don't take this as a design tutorial. This is not my best work by any stretch, but you can see here how easy it is to kind of build out your own landing page, to build out your own brand within Framer, and to also expand upon the more obvious use cases for Framer. So not just the web design tool, you can put your entire brand within one workspace, meaning if you wanted to create ads or social media posts or marketing templates or anything you could potentially want to do, you can do it all in one place. So design pages unlocks more than just creating logos. Frankly, it takes Framer from a world-leading website platform to a world-leading kind of brand presence platform. So really, really impressed with kind of what this opens up for us all. So I hope you've learned something, and I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. Everything we've done this far has cost absolutely nothing. This is a free plan. Our website is live for free. You haven't even got to just accept the kind of predefined domain. If you come to your settings and go to domains, they'll actually give you a free .framer.website domain. You can type in what you desired here as long as it's available. You can click that tick and publish, and that'll update. So you've then got a completely custom URL. Or you can upgrade and find the plan that works for you and connect an existing domain. So there we have it. We had a prototyping tool that added a publish button and went on to add feature after feature to become a world-leading web design and development platform that then added design pages and took themselves from being a leading web development platform to effectively an entire home for a digital presence of any brand you can imagine. If you have any specific questions on Framer, I would be more than happy to answer them. So just drop any comments you've got below. And yeah, I can potentially cover them in a future tutorial, or I'll answer you there and then within the comments feed. But please do make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're a creator, if you're a business owner, if you're a founder, if you're just wanting to learn how to launch your online business to success, then please do ensure you're subscribed to the channel. Giving the video a like always helps me out massively as well, so I really do appreciate all of your support. And we're about to cross the 100k mark for subscribers, so I just wanted to say a massive thank you to all of you who subscribed to the channel so far. I'm sure you can imagine this has been a huge dream of mine to get this far. So yeah, the fact that you're all here supporting me and we're about to hit 100,000 subscribers feels absolutely unreal. So thanks again to all of you for being on board, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.